What is up, everybody? Let me turn the music down here a little bit. How is everyone doing? I am Matt. Welcome to Wrestling with Whiskey Weekly, the best show on YouTube, all about whiskey and spirits and bourbon in particular. The best damn spirit show on the planet. Appreciate you guys being here. We are almost done with 2020, and 2020 could not go out on a worse note. So we're going to talk about some of my favorite whiskeys of the year this year in varying categories. I mean, you could do top 10s of all of these, of bourbons, of ryes, of world. I mean, you could do top 20s, but keep it simple, keep it sweet, and I'm going to end with a toast to a friend. Because, yeah, I was unfortunate enough to have lost a friend this past weekend. Many of you from the wrestling community are aware of that. So we're going to end with a toast to that before I go watch a special tribute to him later this evening. But I just want to thank you guys for joining. LJ is in the chat. What's going on? All the way from across the world. Scorpion's in here. Diego, what's up? Sardog, of course. TYGN, welcome in as well. Happy, yes. Wes is in the house too, of course. Happy for those of you who are in the future. I'm going to move my chat over here so I don't have to look so far away from the camera. You guys, Happy New Year to you. It is almost us. A little over 24 hours from now. Appreciate the kind messages in the chat as well. You guys are awesome. It has been a hell of a year. One we did not see coming in so many ways. I know personally been affected by it in many, many ways. But alas, the whiskey world moved on, and to be fair, the whiskey world did pretty good. I mean, the one thing, one of the few things that stayed open while bars and restaurants did close, which was a huge hit to obviously the restaurant and the hospitality industry as a whole, which did affect spirits and beer and wine and all that. On the counter side of that, liquor stores have been open, like those were deemed essential pretty much across the board, at least here in the United States. They never shut down, and I think they saw an increase in bottle sales. So in consumption, I heard earlier, at least earlier in the year, there wasn't much of a difference. People said it was about steady, but I think bottle purchases went up, and now as we've gotten to the end, I think I read a report, drinking itself, consumption has gone up, which is not necessarily what we're looking for. But all this to say, whiskey still had a pretty good year. A lot of very cool releases. A lot of things came out. A lot of things, companies expanded their markets, expanded their product lines. Distilleries expanded their literal footprint of the distillery, from Buffalo Trace's moving on in their billion-dollar expansion to Bardstown Bourbon Company, getting closer and closer to building their own bottling plant. And they're just going to be a one-stop shop kind of deal. It's been I don't want to say good because I don't think it's been a good year for anyone, but it's been a solid year for whiskey. And normally I would have a longer list of everything. I might have done like a typical top 10 bourbons or something like that, but I was affected by, the troubles this year and everything too. So not the loss of income shrinks that bourbon budget down a lot. Otherwise I might have a much larger list here, but thankfully I was able to review some bottles via media samples and things like that, and collect a few choice bottles of my own. So yeah, so I've been able to have a good, I think a decent sampling of what has come out this year and some of the options that have been available and been made available over the last year or so. And so I'm gonna fit those into different categories. My favorites, we're gonna go through world whiskey, which Irish, Japanese, Scotch, anything that's not basically American bourbon and rye, right? We're gonna do my favorite single barrel program. Um, we are going to do my favorite rye and my program. I mean, like, so not individual pick, not an individual pick, but like which brand offered, I think, the best picks in general from what I've had and from what I've read and heard from friends and everything like that, or that I found the most exciting. Because there's been a couple new additions to single barrel programs over the last year. That's another thing that's grown. It's a rye, world whiskey, single barrel program, finished whiskey, and then for me, my big category is bourbon. So I'm going to tell you about my favorite bourbon of the year. If you guys know, you probably already know what it is. But yeah. So at 7:00, I like I said, I lost a friend of mine in the wrestling industry. So at 7:00, I will bop over and watch a excellent tribute to him on the All Elite Wrestling show tonight on Dynamite. So please, I don't know how long this is going to take. I'm going to try to keep it pretty snippy, end with a toast. And so we're not going to the main event or the opening contest tonight. We're going to stick right here, and let's get into it. So let's talk about my favorite world whiskey. So I was actually lucky this year enough to try a couple different. Again, I got to try the what was it? The Kingsman Scotch. I got to try several Irish whiskeys. I got to try a couple of Japanese whiskeys. None of the Japanese whiskeys were new this year. They're older, consistent releases, things like that. So, but I got to try several different things. I even got to try. I tried to try this one with. I don't think I even tried it on the channel or recorded a video for it, but I got to try some whiskey from somewhere in Europe that was, it wasn't Scotch, wasn't this, wasn't that. I can't wait to try French whiskey, which that market is growing very quickly, and so I can't wait to get some of those over here. It's going to be exciting. And in fact, really quick, I'm going to backpedal. For those who didn't see, the TTB has now allowed for 2021 new bottle sizes to be allowed. We're so used to seeing either small, 375 or like mini minis, but like we're the 375s, 750 or 1.75. But now they're allowing 700 milliliter, they're allowing 900 milliliter, and then I think as well 1.8 liters. Like, so just tiny variances in sizes. But it'll allow us to import some different releases from Europe and some things that normally would get exported because, like, for example, Australia doesn't allow 750s. They'll only allow 700. So some of those releases might be able to stay here and things like that. Little stupid things. It's going to be very interesting to see what comes over here, what goes out, things like that. So anyway, getting back to world whiskey. So I got to try a lot of things. And honestly, the one that stuck out to me the most is one you may have seen us talking about on the channel here not too long ago. And so without further ado, my favorite world whiskey was the Glendalough Irish Pot Still Whiskey. I actually, you know what? When they first reached out, they reached out to me to try to ask me, hey, would you like to try this? They just wanted to do just a one-on-one tasting. They didn't actually even ask us to record anything. They were just like, we'll send you a sample and we want to have our founder just walk you through it. Because I had the Wrestling with Whiskey channel, but I was the one who suggested, please come on the live show. And so that is down in the channel. Go check it out in the video on demand. Donald O'Gallagher, incredibly interesting fella. But I really liked what I tasted first and foremost. But I love what they're also doing with Irish whiskey. And the whole idea of like the single oak project, and you can track the oak that they used to help age their whiskey. And they're actually aging for part of it in Irish oak. Now, those of you, we talk a lot about it a lot on that episode, but things like Scotch, things like Irish whiskey are almost always aged in used barrels entirely. Whether it's American bourbon barrels or it's wine barrels from Spain or France or wherever, it's rarely ever in native oak. Or something, if it is, sometimes it's usually imported American oak or something, or maybe French oak, something like that. Ireland has never really been known for its oak, and so then to take it directly, from their home country, and I think it's again, go back and Donald explains it very well. I think it's 3 or 4 years in used oak, and then another year or so in Irish oak, but still, and you can track the tree. They cut down trees and then replant them. It's a very sustainable project. So all of that filtered into my decision because I think that's a very cool thing to pay attention to. 2, it also is very affordable. This isn't, again, with craft distilleries charging a lot for whiskey. It's very reasonable. Like, I think it's in that $30 to $40 range. And then honestly, for a sub 90 proof whiskey, it had a great mouthfeel. And that's a huge thing. I want a whiskey I can chew that feels viscous, that feels substantial. And that one, to me, just did it. It kind of ticked all those boxes. So it's accessible. I think in the markets it's in, it's not hard to find. It's accessible, it's affordable, and it gives you a very solid experience. And they're a new voice in the Irish whiskey market. So for me, my favorite world, I'm not going to call it the whiskey of the year, but my favorite world whiskey was Glendalough Pot Still Irish Whiskey. It's part of their single oak or their Irish oak project. Go check them out. And check out the interview I did with Donald down below in the video on demand section. So check it out. So moving on, trying to remember if I put rye or single barrel program next. I think I put rye. Well, we'll know when I hit the button because that'll bring up the next bottle. My next favorite whiskey of the year is, what did I put? My favorite rye. And this one I want to do on the show. I was able to have a sample of it. The Crown Royal 16 year. I see this is sitting on the shelf at Binny's here in Chicago for like $60-$70. 16-year rye. It's Canadian rye. And I thought it was a solid pour. Very impressive. Especially from a brand like Crown Royal, which I think a lot of people write off. A lot of people write off Crown Royal, like a lot of people used to write off Jack Daniels. It's a simple, whiskey or whatever. It's Crown and Coke. That's all people go for. And especially bourbon drinkers and American whiskey drinkers have kind of cast them aside as Crown Royal's cheap nonsense. It's blended whiskey. Nobody likes blended whiskeys, even though so many of our whiskeys are kind of blended. But and then there was also the controversy over bourbon mash, Crown Royal bourbon mash. All the bourbon folks got really, really hot about the bourbon mash thing. I get it. Maybe they could have labeled it a little bit differently, but yes, people in the chat, the bag, it's the bag, but like I said, it's Crown and Coke. I know my father's in the chat. My grandpa, his dad, that's the go. Just buy Crown. There's a lot of people just do that. It's nobody cares about like the taste of it. They're not connoisseurs of it. I just go buy me my Crown. I want my Crown Royal on the shelf kind of thing. And there's a whole generation who did that. I think so. A lot of us just kind of wrote it off. So, but Sardog and other people, if you're writing off Crown Royal, if you're into like American whiskey, so it's a rye, it's Canadian rye, right? If you're into that kind of a whiskey, check this one out. The fact that it's pretty widely available. It's not hard to find. It's a double-digit aged whiskey, like age stated too. And now I know it's Canadian rye, so it might be blended. But I mean, if they're age stating it, that's got to be either the majority, I don't know what Canadian laws are, but a majority or at least the youngest whiskey in there. That's how most countries work. If it's 90%, if it's 90%, 4-year rye and they put 16 on I don't think even Canada would let them get away with that. Um, so yeah, check that out. If you have written off Crown Royal, or you pass by the Canadian whiskey aisle in your liquor store, after having this, I am not going to do that anymore. Um, I've heard a lot of great things about like Lot 40 as well. So like Canadian whiskey is another category that I think is sleeping on us, or we're sleeping on it rather. And I think that you're going to see a lot more impressive releases from, 40 Creek, even Gretzky's has had some good releases. His what is it? The Wayne Gretzky whiskey or whatever. I think that's it. Um, but it's something not to sleep on. That's what I have to tell you. 100% do not sleep on Crown Royal, especially the 16-year. I don't know why I'm looking over here, because I can do the little like graphic thing and like point. Oh, wrong side. Point. Check out that Crown Royal 16. If it's what's it called? If you're in Chicago, it's on the shelf at Benny's. I just saw it there the other day. Like I said, $60-$70 for a for a 15-year plus whiskey right now is crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, stage right. I'm still not used to like the graphics kind of thing. Hey, 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 hey. So that brings us to my favorite single barrel program of the year. So there have been a couple of things have been added to single barrel programs from several distilleries. As single barrel picks from groups, restaurants, stores continue to grow in popularity. And if you're a part of the single barrel club, which maybe I should bring us to right now. Oh my God, it's the single barrel club. You can join ours, and we are picking all kinds of stuff. We've got a new riff pick coming up in just a few weeks. We are potentially doing a pick with Remus. We are potentially doing a Knob Creek this year. We are going to potentially doing an Elijah Craig this year. Potentially doing an Old Elk in the first part of the year. It is going to be fun, fun, fun. So make sure if you live in one of those states, $5 a month, join us. Several on the chat in our group have already been there, so make sure you come. Check it out. But speaking of single barrel programs, my favorite, now I think a lot of these, I think people are going to assume that it's one of two. And videos just jumped on. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining the community. Yes. So, join us every week here. Jump into the Discord that is connected to the Patreon. We are always flexing our whiskeys, talking about what we're drinking. I'm dropping in info for picks and everything there. That's where all the most pertinent information and all the fun is really had. Updates will always be provided via the Patreon page. So, videos, thank you very much for checking it out. Yeah, LJ, you need a mule. You need somebody to mule those to you. God, I think the shipping, the mailing costs would be about twice as much as each bottle. So for that, I apologize, but I love that you're in here. I love that you come check out. But so a lot of really exciting single barrel programs were added this year. We saw right at the end, they added Stag Junior, which I've yet to see any of those. I don't know if anyone's seen that. Buffalo Trace also added E.H. Taylor single barrel selections to their roster. Brown Foreman took the Old Foresters and raised them either to 100 proof or barrel strength, which everybody flipped over. But guys, for me, and I just mentioned it not too long ago, my favorite single barrel kind of program of the year, of the options that I've had, were the Remus single barrel picks. I thought I had 3 or 4. I had 2 bottles, and then I tasted 2 or 3 other. And they were all pretty damn awesome. This is now, Remus is MGP. You guys, we're all talking about MGP and when it's sourced for upcoming brands and everything like that. The 36% high rye MGP bourbon, everybody loves to talk about it, especially the higher ages. I know the 10 plus year age stated single barrels or whatever of MGP bourbon are very highly sought after. But that said, MGP taking these out and doing their own releases with them. I mean, again, when you find them, they're not hard to find because your store usually has plenty of them. Because if they're doing a single barrel of it, they're going to have 150 to 220 bottles. I believe most of them, they're cask strength, 36% high rye bourbon, and I think they're usually, from what I've heard from the stores around here, the barrels they're putting out are usually around 5-6 years. So they're not like super young. They're not 4-year barrels. We're talking 6-year barrel proof high rye MGP. And for most of the stores I saw selling them, $60. Again, I know Benny's here does it for $59.99. A boutique store, I think we had over here, even they did it, I think, for $64.99. So I think, again, the value for money, especially if you like that high rye bourbon, which I really do, and even though it's younger, everyone likes those 10-year MGP picks, those 12 years, from like Smoke Wagon or Boone County and things like that, which are, if you haven't noticed, are pretty much going away, save for a very select few companies. MGP doing their own thing, taking advantage of the fact that people like that, I think is a great call. I think the quality, especially if you can get a good store that knows how to pick them, you are going to be in great, great hands. And again, for $60, remember, those single barrels you see out there of the 10 plus year MGP, people are selling those for $130, $150, $200 for some of them. For these craft single barrels that are MGP. So them going and putting out their own single barrels, again, cask strength, they're just a little bit younger. It's still the same high quality whiskey, around 6 years. I just can't laud over it enough. Now, I think a lot of people might have expected me to say the Old Forester barrel strength program. And quite frankly, I've been a little disappointed with the releases I've had. And I've had them from some of my favorite stores here in the city and favorite restaurants and things like that. I had a couple of single barrel picks at cask strength. And man, I don't know the ages and stuff on there, but I love Brown-Forman and I love Old Forester's products, but their barrel strength overall, I thought they drank really, really hot. You'd have to really cool them down. Where even the Remus, even at 120, 125 in that area, I thought they drank pretty nice. But the Old Forester barrel strength barrels, to me, that would have been my other pick. But man, they drank so hot. Each one of them did. Even the ones that tasted really good, just out of the bottle, were like, whew, kind of punched you in the face, and in not a super pleasant way. So I don't know if they're younger or what, but I'm hoping for maybe some older ages on those Old Forester ones, and maybe it'll round out some of those rougher notes, and maybe some lower proof options. I might stick to the 100 proof store picks for Old Forester going forward. But I loved what Remus put out this year. I love the picks I tried this year. But moving right along, we're going to talk about my favorite finished whiskey of the year. And again, those who know me, you know I talked about this a lot. I'm wearing their sweater because it's very comfy. But my favorite finish of the year is the Bardstown Bourbon Company, the Chateau de Labade, I don't know how to. Normally, I took French too. I should know how to. Let me get this bottle. Chateau de la. It's Laubade is like how you phonetically say it. But I'm going to say Laubade. Let me focus it. Focus it. There you go. You guys can just read it. That was an Armagnac. This is an Armagnac finish of a bourbon. Of a, what's it called? Of a, I believe, and two, speaking of our, Remus and the MGP high rye bourbon, I believe. Yep. So this is, oh God, for the life of me, if I remember correctly, I believe a 12-year MGP bourbon finished for 18 months in the Chateau de Labade Armagnac cask for 18 months. So we're talking about a 12-year MGP already, 18-month finish. So all in all, if you want to add it all together, we're talking about 13 and a half, almost 14-year product. I don't know if it's cask strength, but they bottled it at 118.4 proof. And to be fair, I also checked in and I asked, so Armagnac is kind of a Solera aging process. They go from different barrels and different ages, and they kind of combine things. But I asked Dan Calloway about that. I'm like, how old was some of the oldest Armagnac that those barrels that you finished it in were? He's like, it's hard to kind of say. He goes, but some of the oldest in there was either 20 or 30 years old. So the barrels the Armagnac barrels they were using to finish this whiskey they held Armagnac for a long time. It's not like some 8-year Armagnac barrels that they were using. So I think he said somewhere around 20-year Armagnac. This has just ticks every single box. I think Armagnac and Cognac make the best finishes for bourbon. I've gone on record in saying that sherry, I'm willing to give it another go, but I don't love it as a finish. I think we can finally agree that orange curacao does not make a good finish for bourbon. Can we stop trying to finish things in orange curacao barrels? It just tastes weird and metallic-y, and if Bardstown has been doing such a good job at these finishes, but even theirs was a big miss to me this year. That was one of my biggest disappointments. But back to the not disappointment. I mean, this thing, it smells, it's grape and plum and fruit all day long. And then you bring in that floral, spicy, high rye MGP bourbon. And it's got this viscosity of almost 120 proof. Doesn't feel watered down at all. That grape brandy Armagnac flavor complements the spicy but vanilla-y high rye bourbon so perfectly. Better than wine, in my opinion. I think brandy, cognac, Armagnac make excellent finishes for bourbon. And this was like the epitome of that this year. And I think they are working on a, what do you call it? Chateau de Labade, like round 2. They're finishing up another 18-month finish in more Armagnac barrels from them. So they're, I believe, next year, or even, I don't know when they started. It could be even in 2022, to be fair. But I'm hoping by the end of 2021 we'll get another release of this. So, yes, as Robert Anderson said, with that orange curacao, this is part of their premium line, these collaborations. $130 is a bit of a miss. On the flip side of that, for $130, which again, I don't see secondary on this really. When I saw it on the shelf, it was there for $120, $130. 12-year MGP, which we all freak out over, and then finished in an excellent Armagnac barrel. I mean, it does not get better as far as pairings and partnerships for spirits and everything. That one, if you can still find it, I think that one was a pretty small limited release. If you're able to get your hands on it, for the love of God, do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor and pick up a bottle of that. At $130, it's a damn steal. I'm pissed I'm nursing the crap out of this. I am pissed that it's this low. And I also don't want it to sit on the shelf too long because I don't want it to get over oxidized. So I guess I just got to finish this tonight. But anyway, find that one. But my favorite bourbon of the year, which I think was just a smash hit. I think it was a great move. And you guys, again, if you know me, if you've talked with me in the Discord, it's been on a lot of people's best of lists and year-end lists. My number one, my favorite bourbon, is the Knob Creek 12 year. I have it right here too. To me, this is a knockout hit. I think it hits kind of like I was talking about. I forget which whiskey I was hitting it. I was talking about the Glendalough. It ticks a lot of boxes, and man, this does too. I love. It's like depending on the company, we're seeing age statements come and we're seeing them go. I love the return. I know they did it with the 9-year Knob Creek with the single barrels. So they brought the 9-year back to Knob Creek, and then to bring out the 12-year, I thought was awesome. Let's just run it down. 12-year Kentucky bourbon, 100 proof. And I don't know about you guys and what your markets are, but for me, not only just at the liquor store, this is on the grocery store shelf for $59.99. And it's there every damn day. Like, it's not like a thing you're like, oh, you see it and you got to grab it. Like, since this came out, it's been sitting on the Jewel Osco shelf here. And now I'm wondering, after it makes all these year-end lists, I feel like I might have to buy out the shelf next time because I think people are going to start snatching them up. It's fantastic. I think a lot of people want cask strength or they want the 120 proof. I think 100 proof is a great one, especially when you're batching everything together. Now, single barrels at barrel strength, I think you get that unique character. If I'm going to single barrel, I want it as close to cask strength as I can because I want the unique properties of that barrel at full force. But when we're making a batched product that we're going to have, hundreds or thousands of barrels and shipped out across the country, I want something that's a solid proof that's going to give me a lot of the give me a lot of the nuance of the batch and everything like that. And 100 proof gives you that a lot of the oak notes, or what I love. In a 12-year whiskey, you're going to get a lot of oak, and I like tasting oak. When you look at something too, like a Weller 12-year, which people are still go absolutely apeshit for, and I'm still blowing my mind why. It's good. There's a reason MSRP is $40. It's good. It's $40 good. I'd pay $50 or $60 for it like this too. But God bless it. $200, $300, $400 for this thing. $60 on every grocery store shelf in Chicago. It's crazy. Different flavor profiles if you like weeded, I know, but still crazy. So now, the one thing Eric Smith in the chat just brought it up. The picks, just a year or two ago, we were getting a lot of picks. 15-year-old, I got a couple of them, 15, 14-year-old Knob Creek picks that are dynamite, lights out good. You don't see those anymore because I think they were holding back that stock to make this 12-year. And so now, the return to the single barrel program, you're seeing more 8, 9, 10-year if you're lucky Knob Creek picks. But you know what? To me, that's fine. Most distilleries' single barrel programs are only offering 6 to 8 year product anyway. Elijah Craig, Brown-Forman and Old Forester, the Maker's Select program, all these things. That's usually what it is. The 14-year picks from Knob Creek were a crazy anomaly, and you were lucky to get them. So we don't see those as much anymore, but I love that you get a consistent product out there that's 12 years, has a lot of character on it, great oak notes. That 100 proof really lets the oak shine. And for a great price. That's not getting gouged on secondary as of yet. Thank goodness. So hopefully we don't see these disappearing and turning into a Weller 12 or anything like that. And I hope it sticks around. I hope it's not something that just kind of is here this year and then runs out and we're without it again. But I mean, it's a 12-year product. That's going to be hard to kind of keep up with. I hope it is Jim Beam. They have a crap load of whiskey. So hopefully they have enough stock to keep this coming out for the next, at least year or two. Please, Beam. But yeah, so check it out. So yeah, we're going to hopefully be doing a Knob Creek pick, like I said, with the Wrestling with Whiskey Single Barrel Club. The ages vary. So keep in mind though, the label might only say 9-year. I don't know if that's still the case. But always check your store's label because sometimes it might be 10, sometimes it might be 8, whatever. But 8 to 10 year, 120 proof Knob Creek for $40, hand select single barrel is still a really good, one of the best deals in whiskey on its own. And then this, I think, is the best whiskey deal in whiskey on the shelf currently. So try this if you haven't. And with that, I'm going to take the picks down. And I'm going to pour out a toast to my friend John, who I lost this. We lost as friends, as community, as in the wrestling community. I posted on the Wrestling with Whiskey Instagram last night. I was having a little Knob Creek single barrel, and I'll do the same here. When I was first getting into whiskey, John would tell me, and him and his family, him and his wife Amanda and his son Brody would always go to Disney World, just like me and Shaw did and everything like that. But John was not much of a Disney World guy. Like, he liked it because his family liked it, but probably wasn't his first choice. But he would tell me, I remember he would text me and say, a little Knob Creek always made Space Mountain way better. And he was not wrong about that, as I tried many times and later to do myself, I emulated that. Later, John became a Tito's man. He would always have his Tito's and water or Tito's and soda, but he started off with Knob Creek, and so I'm gonna have a Knob Creek for him. And thank you guys for joining me. I'm gonna go watch again. If you are a wrestling fan, join us in watching All Elite Wrestling's tribute to Brody Lee, to John Huber. It's going to be on TNT after this, 7 p.m. Central. Here's to you, John. Thank you for everything. And I will see you down the road, my friend. Cheers.